Alright, I got the guitar all polished up best I could. I mean, there's still some scratches on here, but it looks one heck of a lot better than it did before. And I didn't drop fill these areas. Maybe I'll do that when I'm all said and done. Right now I just want to put it together, get it playing. And I've got the hardware here. I'm going to polish that up a little bit. Got some others here. This is just soaking in some naphtha. These are the screws and the bushings. Soaking in some naphtha and some triflow oil. And then I was looking at the bridge. Now this looks like an old cheap plastic bridge. It's actually starting to crack on here and disintegrate. I'm sorry, the saddle. So I'm going to make a new one out of bone. But the nut here, this to me looks like it is made out of bone. And I've just been polishing it up. I've got some of these 3M polishing papers. So I'm just taking some of the old tarnish off of this and just shining up the nut. And we'll see if we can reuse this, because as I said, I'm pretty sure it's bone. I had it over here on this table, and it sounds, to me it sounds like bone. The plastic sounds like plastic, that saddle, so I'm going to make a new saddle. I think there's like 6 different grit polishing papers. I just put it on a piece of felt and just kind of polish it up like this. Here's a nut shined up. Those polishing papers really did a nice job. I'm hoping I can reuse this, because this is a nice nut. I'm sure this is bone, the way it polished up here. Yeah, pretty glossy. So hopefully this'll work. Just taking these little pieces out, like the bushings, and just wiping the naphtha and the triflow oil off of them. Just polishing them up a little bit here. Got all the small pieces, and I'm just going to do the larger tuners here. Just kind of clean them up. I got some stuff called Never Dull. It's like a silver cleaner polish. That works pretty good at taking tarnish off. You just rip a little off and just wipe it on and wipe it off, and it really cleans them up pretty good. Sands them up pretty good. Alright, got everything cleaned up, so next thing is to start putting the tuners back on. And I'm just going to put them on loosely with the bushings here. I'll get them all in, and then we'll turn it over, and we'll pilot drill for the small screws and put the screws in the back. Alright, I got the tuners on loose, and I've got a center punch here. And I'm just going to give it a little tap and just make a reference point for the drill. Just do that to all the holes here. Okay, now I got a small drill here on my Dremel, and I've got the depth mark that I want to go with some masking tape. Alright, got the pilot holes, so it's just a matter of putting the screws back in. See, that's much better. These were pretty stripped. All of them were pretty stripped. Alright, got them in and just going to give it a final snug here with the, these are 10 millimeter. There we go. So let's put the nut in next. I'm just going to clean up the nut slat here. There's a little old glue on here. I'm just going to take a chiseler file and just make sure this channel's clean here. I'm going to get these little chisels. They're called micro chisels. I think this one's going to work just fine. So we get some of this glue out of the channel here. Alright, this guitar actually does not have a nut slot per se, like it doesn't go down between the headstock and the fretboard. It just kind of sits right up against the fretboard. So I am going to glue it in with tight bond. Like I said, I'm going to make a new saddle for this, so while the nut's drying, I'm first going to make sure that the bottom seat of the bridge where the saddle goes is completely flat. And I get these files made just for this. They're saddle slot files. This one is, let's see, this is 3/32 inch, which is what this saddle is. There's a coarse side. And then there's a fine file. I think it was pretty good. Fairly flat and true. Alright, let's take a look at the saddle here. Alright, get some vintage bone material, blank for a saddle. This is the original saddle here. And as I say, I think this is plastic. It's actually starting to craze a little here. It just seems pretty cheap to me, so I'm going to replace it with some really nice vintage bone here. So first thing I'll do is just true up the bottom edge of this blank on the granite table that I got over here with the paper on here, or the sandpaper. Okay, here's the blank. I made a mark on the bottom so I know which is the trued up side. And I'll just take the old saddle here and we'll trace it just to Alright, that's approximate, and I'll go over to the bandsaw and just kind of hog out most of the material here. Alright, here's what I got. It's just real rough. I sawed down, didn't take the line, and it's a little bit bigger than the original. So what I'm going to do now is at the top of the saddle here, I'm going to put just a radius top on here, and I think I'll use my 16 inch sanding block, because we know that the radius of the fretboard down near the end of the guitar is about 16 inches, so I want to match that with at least a radius that's like I don't want to put a 12 radius on there. I want it to be flatter, either 16 or flatter, so we'll use 16. This is my 16 inch sanding block. And as I say, we'll just sand this down, put a radius on it here. Alright, I got the radius on the top now, the 16-inch radius. And what we want to do is, got to get this to fit the saddle slot. It's close right now. I don't think I'm going to have to take off too much. And what we've got to do is round the edges here. So I'm going to go over to the sanding block, round the edges, and just make it a little thinner. See, I almost got it. It's still a little tight. See, it's got to take a little more off. Here, this is a good fit now. See, it snaps down in there. It's tight, but it'll come out. See? Alright. Next step, right now the where we put the radius is completely flat, so I just want to round the top of the bridge saddle. I keep saying bridge. And the old one, if I look at it, was not compensated at all. I'm going to try and compensate this a little bit. Alright, what I mean by compensation, you may know. You want the B string to be hitting the saddle at the furthest point back, or the high E string to be closer to the front of the saddle, and then from like the G up to the E, basically the G would be more in front, and then you kind of take it back to the E. So I'm just gonna sketch a line in here kind of the way I want it to go. Should use my ruler. Hang on. I don't know if you can see that. I drew a line on here, and the line kind of hits where the B string's gonna go at the back of the saddle, comes forward at the high E, and then makes a gentle angle all the way until it gets to the low E. And the way I'm going to sand this, here, it's too close. I'm going to go over here on this sander and just kind of make some smooth curves. Take the material out in front of that line. So basically that's where the line's going to be breaking, or the strings will be breaking off that line. Okay, got it roughed in pretty good on that oscillating saw. And now I'm just going to use my sanding block and just go real careful, make it look better, come up to the line, make a nice curve on here, and then we'll polish it up. See, I can still see the line, so I know that's where the string will be breaking off this line. But I get that curve coming right up to that line. Okay, I'm really happy with the way this is looking right now. So I'm just going to polish it up with those same papers that we used to polish up the nut. Alright, comes down to the fun part now. Not that this hasn't been fun, but I'm gonna let's put a set of EJ16s on here. This poor thing hasn't made any sounds in it's probably over 10 years. So let's see if we can get it singing here again. We'll check the action, see how the setup is after we get these strings on. Got the strings on. Rings great, sounds great, huh? But what I was afraid of is that this does needed a neck reset before we even started. So just checking the action now, you have to be like an atomic bluegrass player, I think, to like this action. I've got it's about 10/64 on the low E and 8, maybe 9/64 on the high E. Now I do have some saddle that I can work with back here. Maybe tomorrow we'll just kind of let it sit and kind of settle in overnight, and I'll take down some of the saddle. But if it's still ridiculously high, we talked about maybe shaving the bridge a little bit to get it down, because it's not too bad. I mean, if we get this down to like 7/64 and 5/64, that would not be bad on this kind of guitar. So I'm going to try playing it here. We might even be able to come down a little bit on the nut here. Not that that would really help the action up here too much. It might. But it looks like I've actually got a little bit of material that I'd be able to take off the nut. The nut looks a little high. I'll check that tomorrow too. Right now I just want to give it a couple strums here. Alright, let's give it a spin here. The E chord. Sounds good. The action's high, no doubt about it. I want to wish this action on my worst enemy. I like low action. I know some of the guys that do play bluegrass like the higher action. Yeah, but this is even a little high for like bluegrass. It's got awfully nice frets for such high action, though. Wow. At least not buzzing. You know, it's not buzzing up here at when you're fretting. So we'll see what we can do about getting that action down. But it sounds good. It really does sound good. Alright, I thought this is just going to be 3 parts, but I think there'll definitely be a 4th, because want to adjust the nut, and as I say, probably do a little shaving. I might not even have to do the bridge. I might just take the saddle down a little bit, because here's what happened. I rechecked the relief after we put the strings on. I had 12 thousandths relief on here, which for me, that's pretty stiff. So I tightened up the truss rod, and believe me, it's tight. I helped it by kind of pulling down on the neck at the same time I was tightening it. But right now I got it down to about 7 thousandths relief, and that actually brought the action down. Now I am about 9.5 64ths on the high E, and about 8 on the treble E. So that's not too bad, actually. As I say, I think some of the bluegrass guitars are set up, higher, probably 7/64ths, and even that's not that high. Maybe even 9/64ths at some points, and 7/64ths on the high E. So we've got a little saddle we can work with here. Maybe I'll just try taking the saddle down a little bit, adjusting the nut, and see where that gets us before I do any work on the bridge, as far as sanding the bridge. Just that little adjustment with the truss rod makes it feel a lot better. The bar chords are really clean on this. And it helps, having the new frets on there too, and all the frets are nice and leveled, and it makes a difference even with the high action. It's not bad at all to play. Alright, so we'll see what we can do to just improve it a little bit. I don't think it should take too much, and I'm really hoping that I don't have to sand the bridge. I really don't want to do that. If I can do that with just the saddle, just take that saddle down a little bit, get the action down, maybe 7/64ths, 5/64ths, that would be fantastic.